um, uncomfortable. So we have to relearn how to have them, and encouraging people to have them in small bits and often.
So not necessarily we're going to sit down at the dining room table and have a protracted conversation about this, but maybe a question or two at a time.
It really depends on the day. I love the conversations at the dining room table that are long and about death, but someone else might, that might not be their cup of tea. So really trying to make folks comfortable in the situation so that they can actually engage in their feelings.
Phil, I want to spend a bit more time talking about the toll of COVID-19. We've lost more than 500,000 people in the U.S. over the last year. And you had some thoughts about how this could reshape the way we think about death care. How hopeful are you that will actually happen?
I don't know. I don't know what to hope for anymore. But COVID has placed a lot of stress on funeral service providers, cremation services, cemetery operators. And it's important to remember, and this is something that Lashana just brought up, that the funeral industry remains highly segregated, which means that funeral service providers who serve communities harder hit by the pandemic, African American communities, Latinx communities, have generally struggled more than have funeral directors who primarily serve white customers. In Brooklyn, New York last summer, an African American funeral home was inundated with bodies. It was in the press quite a bit, and couldn't keep up. Mayor Bill de Blasio criticized them, saying that the care of the dead bodies brought to that funeral home was the responsibility of that private business. So he took no responsibility for the management, right, of the dead. And I think that the funeral home lost its license and were sued. And I just thought it was a shame, right, that there wasn't a greater sort of public buy-in or public support to assist with the care of the COVID dead and all who were dying at this time, just because of the differential impact on different communities, and because it's a shared pandemic. It's not a sort of a private matter.
Well, we'll have to leave this conversation here for now. That's Philip Olson. He's a professor of technology ethics at Virginia Tech. His research focuses on the intersection of death technology and bioethics. Also with us today, Katrina Spade, the founder and CEO of Recompose. It's a funeral home located outside Seattle, Washington, that recently became the first to turn human bodies into compost. And Lashana Williams, a death doula based in Washington State. She's also the executive director of A Sacred Passing Death Midwifery. It's an organization that provides community education about death and dying. Thanks to you all. We'll end on this email from Donna, who says, last fall, a few of us buried my dear friend at a lovely green burial site, Larkspur Conservation in Tennessee. My friend was an extraordinary gardener and lover of nature, and she was excited to know she would be surrounded by woods, wildflowers, and birdsong. Today's producer was Catherine Fink. This program comes to you from WAMU, part of American University in Washington, distributed by NPR. I'm Jen White. This is 1A.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Noom, providing an online evaluation and the tools to help people lead healthier lives through behavior change. More information at Noom, NOOM.com. From Workday, an enterprise management cloud focused on helping organizations adapt to change and prepare for what's next. Workday, the finance, HR, and planning system for a changing world. And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
The Korean TV show Squid Game is Netflix's most watched series ever, both in America and across the world. But K-dramas, that's shorthand for Korean language TV dramas, have been booming in popularity with American audiences for the past decade. They're part of what's known as the Korean wave that includes K-pop too. Korea's cultural clout, next time on 1A.
From 11 to noon, and starting at 1, it's Fresh Air, and here's what's coming up.
On the next Fresh Air, we tried to end another challenging year on a more upbeat note with a week-long series of interviews from 2021 that we enjoyed. We begin with Kieran Culkin, one of the stars of HBO's Succession. When he was a child, he was featured in the hit movie Home Alone, which starred his brother, Macaulay. Join us.
Listen this afternoon from 1 until 2. This is WAMU Washington, your listener-supported NPR news station from American University, celebrating 60 years in HD at 88.5 on your smart speaker and at WAMU.org. The takeaway is next. It's noon.
Hey everyone, I'm Alana Casanova Burgess from WNYC, in for Melissa Harris Perry this week, and it's the takeaway for Monday, December 27th. After a long holiday weekend with the family, for a lot of us, we start with an Omicron update.